Baby Raifan is lucky to be alive. 6 months ago, he was given liquid paracetamol to treat a mild fever. It was later found to be contaminated with 2 toxic compounds, and he suffered an acute kidney injury.
We had to put him on dialysis. It took a while before he could urinate again. Once he could urinate, it was so dark, he needed a second dialysis. Then his blood was so thick, it couldn't re-enter his body, so he needed a blood transfusion.
Before he fell ill, Raifan was a happy, bouncy baby. Now, at 14 months, he can barely move. His parents don't know if he'll ever recover.
He can't bend his legs. He can't eat properly. He can only drink milk through a tube. He can't breathe without a device. His eyes are unresponsive.
Since August, scores of Indonesian children have suffered acute kidney injuries after ingesting liquid medicine contaminated with ethylene glycol and diethylene glycol. Almost 200 children have died, most under the age of 6. Many more have debilitating injuries.
Minum obat yang sesuai resep dengan dokter.
These children took the prescribed medicines. A few days later, their temperatures dropped, but a new illness kicked in. They were throwing up, they couldn't urinate, their kidneys were damaged. Very quickly, some died.
Ethylene glycol and diethylene glycol are solvents typically found in paint or antifreeze in cars.
Very, very small amounts of these substances for short periods of time are safe. But there's a difference between what is essentially a speck and what could be a couple of teaspoonfuls of a substance which can kill a young child.
How such high concentrations made it into children's cough syrups and liquid paracetamol is still unclear.
One possibility is that they're a contaminant in the propylene glycol, which is a related but different substance and one that isn't toxic. And somehow ethylene glycol got in there as a contaminant.
Raifan's illness has devastated an already poor family. His father has quit his job to care for his son full-time. 4 days a week he takes him to specialist doctors. The couple can no longer afford to rent their own home. They say neither the hospital, the government nor the pharmaceutical companies want to help them.
This device in Raifan's neck, I had to buy it myself. The hospital never has one available. It's like we keep getting kicked after we're down.
Now 25 families have launched a class action suing several pharmaceutical companies and suppliers, the government and the BPOM, Indonesia's Food and Drug Authority, over the contamination scandal.
What's important is the government admits these victims are the victims of a failed system. They're victims of a pharmaceutical industry crime that happened because the system failed.
Memories follow me left and right.
Safitri Puspa and her husband want justice after their 8-year-old son Pang Hagar died from acute kidney injury.
He really liked dinosaurs. This is his last birthday present. He specially requests about his present himself.
Hey everyone, it's my 8th birthday!
When the boy had a fever 3 months ago, doctors prescribed him a syrup medication, unaware it would kill him.
We gave the doctor a list of medicines that my son took, along with all the data I have since his birth. He had no history of medical complications. He had no genetic abnormalities. He wasn't born premature. He was healthy.
In October, Indonesia banned the sale of more than 100 medicines until they were deemed safe or not, and the Drug Authority has since destroyed all contaminated drugs. But the family's lawyer claims the agency breached its duty.
BPOM should have recognised this very early on as a danger and set up a procedure for medicine manufacturing in the pharmaceutical industry where they must strictly monitor them.
One of the drug makers involved, Universal Pharmaceutical Industries, denies responsibility. It blames its suppliers for adding the 2 lethal compounds to the chemical mix without telling them, and the Food and Drug Authority for not carrying out proper checks.
Arrest the suppliers of this substance and improve BPOM's regulations. In order to resolve this problem, then all the medicines in Indonesia have to be under serious supervision from BPOM.
Neither BPOM nor the Indonesian Health Department responded to 730's interview requests, but the Drug Authority has previously denied responsibility, saying pharmaceutical manufacturing standards don't require it to test drugs for contaminants.
They need to be held accountable because they're the supervisory agency for drugs, and there's a job to supervise. They're the main gate. We found out about these contaminants after there were victims.
Families say the government hasn't done enough and claims state-owned hospitals have abandoned them. Many carry out medical procedures themselves, like tube feeding children and changing bandages.
A professional needs to do it, the nurses, the doctors. Why do the parents need to be trained to do it? And according to these parents, 80% of the medical procedures, the parents need to do them themselves.
Lawyers will demand 2 billion rupiah, or $200,000 in compensation for every family in the class action when it goes to court in January. But for most, it's not only about money.
It's enough for them to show that the government and the industry have admitted that a mistake was made and that they are willing to make some improvement. That's the most important thing for them.
The main thing is we want changes in the system to make sure this will never happen again.
For Resti Safatri, the tragedy has taken not only her son's health, but any chance of another child.
After what happened to my son Raifan, I'm scared to have another child because I'm afraid something like this could happen again.